Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. Percent. Did you just say 3%? My voice was barely a whisper as I stared at Calvin Trent from HR, his face illuminated by the fluorescent lights that suddenly felt like they were burning into my skin. The spreadsheet with my client acquisition numbers, $2.1 million in Dane, new business that I'd personally brought in, sat between us on the conference table like evidence at a crime scene. I watched Calvin Trent shift uncomfortably in his seat, not meeting my eyes. Sabrina, I understand your disappointment, but this is standard across the board. The partners have established a maximum raise threshold of 3% this fiscal year. Something broke inside me at that moment. Not loudly, not dramatically, but definitively, like a hairline fracture spreading through glass. My name is Sabrina Chen, 34 years old, and until 6 months ago, I was the top-performing client relationship manager at Fulcrum Financial Advisors. Before I go further, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I would love to hear from you, especially if you've ever had that moment where you suddenly realize your loyalty has been a one-way street. That meeting with HR happened on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were when I'd normally stay, late to call our West Coast clients. I'd been doing it for 4 years, sacrificing my evenings because I knew those California executives appreciated the personal touch. That Tuesday, though, I packed up at exactly 5:30 p.m. and walked out without explanation. My mind was already somewhere else. Let me back up a little. I wasn't always the rainmaker bringing in millions. I started at Fulcrum as an assistant account manager 7 years ago, making coffee runs and formatting PowerPoints. I worked my way up the old-fashioned way, by working harder than everyone else. While my friends posted Instagram stories from weekend trips, I was answering urgent client emails. When colleagues called in sick after company happy hours, I was at my desk by 7 a.m. with detailed strategy proposals. The Wilson account was my first big win. They were a family-owned manufacturing business that one of our senior partners was about to lose. The partner, Jackson, had blown off 3 meetings in a row because bigger clients took priority. I stepped in, spent time understanding their business, stayed late crafting a personalized investment strategy. Within a month, they increased their portfolio with us by 40%. Jackson took the credit. I got a $200 gift card to Nordstrom and a "keep up the good work" email. Still, I believed in paying dues. I believed that eventually, loyalty would be rewarded. 2 years ago, I developed my own client acquisition strategy, targeting mid-sized businesses that our firm typically overlooked. My boss, Gregory Lang, reluctantly gave me permission to try, probably assuming I'd fail. "Just don't let it affect your regular work," he said, not looking up from his phone. I landed 7 new clients in 5 months, then 12 more the following quarter. My approach was simple, but exhausting. I did the research no one else bothered with. I learned about potential clients' businesses before meeting them. I remembered their kids' names and college choices. I sent handwritten notes. While the other managers relied on flashy presentations and expensive lunches, I built relationships. The Harold Wynn Group was the big one, a $500 million family office that had been with Morgan Stanley for decades. I spent 6 months cultivating that relationship. Dinner with the patriarch on his 70th birthday when everyone else had conflicts. A custom analysis when they were considering diversifying into commercial real estate. 3 a.m. phone calls when the market dipped and the CEO's daughter panicked. They moved $85 million to our firm. And overnight, I became valuable to Fulcrum. Or so I thought. My performance reviews were stellar. Sabrina exceeds expectations in all areas. Clients asked for me by name. The annual client satisfaction survey mentioned me specifically 11 times. I received a small bonus last year, nothing close to what the male managers got, but I told myself it was a start. Then last December, Gregory Lang pulled me aside after the holiday party. "We're looking at promotions in the new year, and your name is at the top of my list," he said, whiskey on his breath. "The partners have noticed what you've built. Just keep doing what you're doing." I believed him. That's the part that still makes my chest ache when I think about it. I genuinely believed him. For the next 3 months, I pushed even harder. I developed a specialized approach for tech industry clients, bringing in 3 startups that had just secured Series B funding. I flew to Boston twice on my own dime to close the Hendrix deal. I missed my sister's baby shower to prepare for a Monday morning presentation that landed us the Rickman account. The numbers spoke for themselves. $2.1 million in new business, a 24% increase in my client retention rate, and a client satisfaction score that was the highest in the firm's history. So when quarterly reviews came around, I prepared a detailed presentation about my contributions and formally requested a 15% raise, which frankly still undervalued what I'd brought to the table. That brings me back to that Tuesday 2%. That's what 7 years of loyalty, missed family events, and millions in new business was worth to them. I need to think about this, I said quietly, gathering my papers. Calvin Trent looked relieved that I wasn't making a scene. The market's tight right now, Sabrina, he offered as I stood to leave. Everyone's feeling the pinch. That same afternoon, I discovered that Gregory Lang had received a 22% raise and a promotion to senior partner. The news came via a company-wide email, celebrating his exceptional leadership and business development success. The same success I had delivered. While he took 2-hour lunches and left early for golf, I sat at my desk, staring at that email for what felt like hours. Something cold and clarifying washing over me. I'd given this company everything, my time, my energy, my creativity, and they had taken it all while giving nothing in return. That night, I updated my resume for the first time in 7 years. By Thursday, I had 3 interviews scheduled. By Monday, I had 2 offers. I chose Meridian Wealth Advisors, a smaller firm with a reputation for treating their employees like actual humans. When I handed my resignation letter to Gregory Lang, his face went through a series of expressions that I would later replay in my mind during low moments. "Is this about money?" he asked, looking genuinely confused. "Because we can revisit the compensation discussion, if that's the issue." "It's about value," I replied. "And no, we can't revisit it." I gave the standard 2 weeks notice and began the process of transitioning my clients. That's when things got interesting. The Harold Wynn Group called me directly when they heard I was leaving. "We work with you, Sabrina, not Fulcrum." Mr. Flurley Westland said, "Where you go, we go." 6 other clients said essentially the same thing. Together, they represented over $500,000 in annual fees for the firm. I was ethical about it. I didn't solicit any clients. I didn't badmouth Fulcrum. When clients asked where I was going, I answered, honestly, but made no attempt to recruit them. They made their own decisions. Gregory Lang called me into his office 2 days before my last day, his face flushed. "The partners are concerned about the Westland situation," he said. "What did you say to them?" "The truth," I replied. "That I'm leaving for a new opportunity." "You must have said something else. They've been with us for 2 years with no issues." "They've been with me for 2 years," I corrected him. "There's a difference." That's when the panic really set in. For Fulcrum. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk. The CEO, Nathan Voss, who had never once acknowledged me in the hallway, invited me to lunch. "We see great things in your future here," he said, as if my resignation was a minor misunderstanding rather than a final decision. On my last day, I cleaned out my desk, handed in my key card, and walked out without looking back. No one arranged a goodbye happy hour. No one circulated a card. 7 years, and I left like I'd never been there at all. The first indication that I'd struck a nerve came 3 days later. I was settling into my new office at Meridian when my phone rang. A blocked number. "Sabrina, it's Nathan Voss." Martin, the CEO of Fulcrum, calling me directly. My heart hammered in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "Hello, Nathan Voss. What can I do for you?" "We've made a terrible mistake," he said, his voice uncharacteristically humble. "Your contribution to Fulcrum was undervalued. The board has authorized me to offer you a substantial package to return." I remained silent, letting him fill the space. $100,000 signing bonus, 30% increase on your previous salary, and the director title you deserved. We need you back, Sabrina. The Herald Wynn Group is threatening to pull their remaining investments if we don't sort this out. I looked around. My new office, smaller than my old one, but with a window that actually opened and a team that had welcomed me with genuine warmth. I appreciate the offer, Nathan Voss, but I've made my decision. At least think about it, he pleaded. This is a significant package. We can go higher on the bonus if necessary. I'll consider it, I said, knowing I wouldn't. After we hung up, I sat there, a strange sense of power flowing through me. For the first time in 7 years, I was being valued, not for who I was, but for what I could take away. Later that night, my phone pinged with a voicemail notification. Nathan Voss again, this time more desperate. Sabrina, before you make any final decisions, I want you to know that the board has unanimously approved an equity partnership offer. This is unprecedented for someone at your level, but we recognize the relationships you've built are essential to Fulcrum. Please call me back day or night. I listened to the message twice. The calm, calculating part of my brain, the part that had been silently taking notes every time I was overlooked, underpaid, or underestimated, knew exactly what to do next. I forwarded the voicemail to Jade Monroe, my new boss at Meridian. FYI, I wrote, "This is what panic sounds like. Jade." Monroe responded within minutes. "Holy, can I share this with the team? This is gold." I hesitated for only a moment. "Go ahead," I replied. "It might be educational for everyone." What happened next exceeded even my wildest expectations. Jade Monroe played the voicemail at the IZE firm's weekly strategy meeting as an example of what happens when you don't value your key people. Someone recorded it. That recording made its way to one of Meridian's board members, who happened to play golf with one of Fulcrum's largest institutional investors. Within 24 hours, Fulcrum's stock dropped 12%. I found out from a text message from my former colleague, Tara. "WTF did you do? Stock is in freefall and there's an emergency board meeting happening right now." I hadn't intended to hurt the company. Not really. I just wanted them to feel a fraction of what I'd felt. Undervalued, disposable, taken for granted. But as the news trickled in throughout the day, I realized just how fragile their facade of success had been. Apparently, the institutional investor who heard the voicemail had been looking for an excuse to reduce their position in Fulcrum for months. My departure, and 7 major clients following me, was the red flag they needed. They sold 30% of their holdings, triggering a small panic. By market close, 3 analyst firms had downgraded Fulcrum stock from buy to hold. That night, my phone blew up with messages from former colleagues. Some were angry, blaming me for the chaos. Others were impressed, asking if Meridian was hiring. Daman sent a single text. "I hope you're satisfied." I didn't respond to any of them. I'd love to say I slept peacefully that night, satisfied with my revenge. The truth was messier. I lay awake until 3 a.m., replaying every moment of my 7 years at Fulcrum. Had I overreacted? Had I crossed a line? The validation felt incredible, but it came with a weight I hadn't anticipated. The next morning, I arrived at Meridian to find Jade Monroe waiting in my office, grinning like she'd won the lottery. "You're officially a legend," she said, dropping into the chair across from my desk. "The Herald Wynn Group called. They're moving their entire portfolio to us. All $320 million, they said, and I quote, 'We want to be where Sabrina is valued.' Properly." I felt a smile spread across my face, a real one, the kind I hadn't worn in years. "They're good people," I said. "You'll like working with them." "I won't be working with them," Jade Monroe replied. "They specifically requested you as their primary contact, which is why I'm here." She slid a folder across my desk. "Congratulations on your promotion to Senior Director of Client Relations. The board approved it this morning." I stared at the folder, my heart pounding. "I've been here for 11 days, and in 11 days, you've brought more value than some people bring in 11 years. She stood up. "The salary adjustment is effective immediately. Take the day to get settled into your new role. We'll announce it company-wide tomorrow." After she left, I opened the folder with shaking hands. The compensation package was nearly double what Nathan Voss had desperately offered me to return to. Fulcrum. But it wasn't the money that made my eyes well up. It was the handwritten note from Meridian's CEO. "Thank you for choosing us. We won't take it for granted." Over the next few weeks, the Fulcrum situation continued to spiral. 2 more partners left, taking their clients with them. The company announced a strategic restructuring that everyone in the industry recognized as code for "we're in trouble." Nathan Voss resigned as CEO, citing personal reasons. I didn't feel the satisfaction I'd expected. Instead, I felt something more complex, a mixture of vindication, sadness, and, surprisingly, gratitude. Fulcrum had taught me exactly what I didn't want to be, and exactly what I wouldn't tolerate. That knowledge was worth something. 3. Months into my new position at Meridian, I received an unexpected email from Calvin Trent, the HR manager who had delivered the insulting 3% raise offer. "I'm writing to apologize," his message began. "I was part of a system that consistently undervalued your contributions while overvaluing others based on factors that had nothing to do with performance. After you left, I started noticing the pattern everywhere. Last week, I resigned from Fulcrum. I couldn't be part of it anymore. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that your courage changed at least one person's perspective." I read the email 5 times, tears streaming down my face, not because I'd won some victory, but because sometimes speaking your truth, even when it's painful, even when it costs you, creates ripples you never anticipated. 6 months after leaving Fulcrum, I was sitting in my office, now with a view of the river and an assistant of my own, when my phone rang. It was Mr. Harold Wynn. "I thought you'd want to know," he said, his voice gentle with age and wisdom. "Fulcrum approached us about returning our business to them. They offered significant fee reductions." He paused. "I told them that some relationships aren't about price." "Thank you," I said quietly. "No, Sabrina. Thank you for showing integrity when it wasn't convenient. For valuing us as people, not just accounts. My family notices those things." Another pause. "By the way, my granddaughter just graduated from business school. Bright young woman. Reminds me of you. Would you be willing to meet with her? She could. Use a mentor. Someone who understands what it means to know your worth." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, looking out at the river. The revenge had been sweet, yes. Seeing Fulcrum scramble, watching their stock tumble, hearing the desperation in Nathan Voss's voice, all of it gave me a satisfaction I couldn't deny. But the real victory wasn't in their downfall. It was in my rise, not just professionally, but personally. I had finally learned loyalty is meaningless if it only flows upward. Sacrifice is pointless if it's never acknowledged. And my worth isn't determined by those who undervalue me, but by my willingness to walk away when they do. The hardest part to admit is this. I stayed at Fulcrum for 7 years, not because I believed in the company, but because I didn't fully believe in myself. I kept thinking I needed to prove something, earn something, become worthy of something that should have been mine from the beginning. Basic respect and fair compensation for exceptional work. 8 months after I left, Fulcrum was acquired by a larger firm for 40% less than their valuation the year before. I read the news with surprising detachment. They had become part of my past, and my focus was firmly on the future. At Meridian, I built a team of my own, mostly women who had been overlooked at other firms. I implemented a transparent compensation structure where performance directly correlated with rewards. I created a mentorship program for junior staff, and I made sure no one on my team ever worked through a family event for a client who wouldn't remember their name. My client portfolio grew to over $5 billion in managed assets within 18 months. The industry took notice. I was invited to speak at conferences, featured in business publications, approached by headhunters offering eye-watering salaries to poach me. I declined them all. Because Meridian had done something Fulcrum never did, they valued me from day one, not just when they were at risk of losing me. Last week, I ran into Gregory Lang at an industry event. He looked older, diminished somehow. He approached me at the bar, drink in hand. "You destroyed us," he said. No preamble. Was it worth it? I studied him for a moment. This man who had taken credit for my work, who had seen my ambition as a resource to exploit rather than talent to nurture. "I didn't destroy anything, Gregory Lang," I replied calmly. "Fulcrum did that all on its own. I just stopped holding it together." He flinched as if I'd slapped him. "For what it's worth," I continued, "I learned more from Fulcrum's failures than from any of its successes. So yes, it was absolutely worth it." As I walked away, I realized I felt no anger toward him anymore, no resentment, no desire for further revenge. Those emotions require an investment of energy I'm no longer willing to make. Yesterday marked 2 years since I left Fulcrum. I celebrated by taking my entire team to dinner. As I looked around the table at these brilliant, dedicated professionals who had chosen to work with me, not for me, but with me, I felt a contentment that no amount of revenge could ever provide. When dinner was winding down, Jade Monroe raised her glass. "To Sabrina," she said, "who showed us all what happens when you know your worth and refuse to accept less." The team clinked glasses. Glasses. But I shook my head. "To all of us," I corrected, "for building something worth staying for." Later that night, I received an email from a former Fulcrum client who had not followed me to Meridian. "I made a mistake," she wrote. "I stayed with the firm out of convenience, but the service has deteriorated dramatically. Would you consider taking on my account? It's small compared to your usual portfolio, only about $30 million, but I trust you." I smiled as I typed my response. "I'd be happy to meet with you. My team and I value relationships of all sizes. How's Tuesday at 10 Mi?" As I pressed send, I thought about that meeting with Calvin Trent 2 years ago, the one where he offered me 3% and expected gratitude. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't change my response. But I might add something. "Thank you for showing me exactly what I'm worth, and exactly what I won't accept." The journey from that conference room to where I am now wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about recognition, recognizing my value, recognizing when loyalty becomes self-destruction, recognizing that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away. The stock drop, the panic, the desperate calls. Those were just symptoms of a larger truth. When you build something on the exploitation of undervalued talent, you build on sand. Eventually, the tide comes in. My revenge wasn't in leaving. It was in thriving once I left, and that's the revenge that keeps giving, day after day after day. If you're watching this and wondering if you're undervalued, if your loyalty is being exploited, if you're giving more than you're getting, ask yourself one question. What would happen if you walked away? If the answer scares your employer more than it scares you, maybe it's time to find out. Have you ever had to walk away from something to prove your worth? Have you stayed somewhere too long out of misplaced loyalty? Has an employer ever tried to win you back after undervaluing you? Tell me your story in the comments, and if this resonated with you, please subscribe. There's more where this came from. More truths, more lessons learned the hard way, more stories of finding power in places you least expect it, because the real revenge isn't in making others regret losing you. It's in never regretting the decision to lose them.